Hey everyone, it's Justine and welcome to a new video tutorial. Today we're going to be creating 3 different cards using Concord and Ninth's products. So I'm going to start off with the triple step Hooray stamp. This is a stamp that you stamp 3 times in order to get a saying or a sentiment that has 3 different colors. Sometimes when I know I'm going on an upcoming vacation, I film a few videos and then I release them later. So this is a part 2 to the other 3 cards you saw in the beginning, and I'll link to that in the video description below as well as at the end of the video if you want to see the other 3 cards. These were a part of the Concord and Ninth April release, and you may have already seen photos of these cards, but I didn't release the video tutorial, mainly because I knew I was heading out of town and needed some extra video footage for when I'm away. Currently, I am in Georgia, which borders Russia, and I am enjoying myself greatly. So I do like to pre-film things for when I'm away, and I hope you've been enjoying them all throughout the month of August. So the colors that I'm using for this are Gina K Designs. In the navy, passionate pink, and wild dandelion. I created all of the cards in this color palette pretty much, just so that everything kind of coordinated. I'm now using the confetti dies here, and the dies are so cool. So it comes with 3 different dies. One of them here fits exactly around the Hooray sentiment. So you have all this confetti going around, and then you can put a piece of background paper behind it so that you can have those confetti being any color you choose. The rest of the die is really cool. You have the inner piece, which cuts a whole bunch of confetti. You have the outer piece, which cuts the confetti around the sentiment. And then you have this frame here that kind of has a jagged edge. And I'm going to use that frame here to cut a piece of In the Navy cardstock, which matches the ink that I used on the card. I love Gina K Designs for that, so that you get the beautiful envelopes, cardstock, ink, and sometimes even the foils, all coordinating in one color. So I'm just arranging the cards. So I glued the In the Navy cardstock to the back of the confetti so that the confetti now has that navy blue showing through. And it also has the border around it, so that color really just complements throughout the ink, the border, the confetti. And then I added some 3D foam tape to the back of that and added it to my panel. So this is my final card. That's card 1, and now we're going to move on to card 2. Now for my next card, I'm going to be using the Sketched Stripes Background Stamp Set. I challenge you to say that 3 times fast. And I am going to be inking this all up to stamp on the back of my card. Now what I love about this stamp here is that you can stamp it once, you can stamp it twice, you can stamp it 3 times, you can create sort of a plaid design. It just really depends on how you offset your cardstock or how you turn your cardstock to make it work. So you can see there, I stamped the navy ink, and then I turned my card 180 degrees. So I turned it so that the bottom was at the top, and I stamped my second one, which gave me stripes that were not going to overlap too much onto the navy. Then I turned my card horizontally and added my third color. This is the wild dandelion. And then once again, if I turn that 180 degrees again so that it's on the other side, I can go ahead and stamp a second stripe, and it just looks really cool when it's all finished. So I am stamping some Versamark ink this time, and I decided to offset my cardstock just slightly so that I got a better line and nothing was overlapping too much. And I added some silver embossing powder by Ranger over top so I could add some interest. You'll notice that for the cards in the other video that I created for the first 3 cards out of this set, I did this quite often where I added a layer of embossing with the ink in order to make it more interesting. And once again, I'll link to that video below in the description as well as at the end of the video. So once that was all done, I cut it out using a stitched rectangle die here, and I trimmed it all down just to make it so that I had a nice white border. That background is a little bit busy for my taste, so I wanted to make sure I had a lot of white space on my card. So I made a thicker border than I usually do on my card to frame it. Then I went ahead with this beautiful hello die, and I love this. It die cuts a circle with the hello letters in it, and you can use those hello letters on another card. But then it also has these little stitched lines as a decoration. And those stitched lines, there's 2 different patterns that you can replace. So if you don't like the stitched lines, there's another pattern as well. So it's super fun. I also went ahead and die cut the same die in navy so that I could get the hello letters in navy. So once again, incorporating that navy color in other spaces aside from the background is going to really tie the card together. So I added those letters. So now I have a set of white letters handy as well as the navy background, so I could use that on a different card if I wanted to. Now this stamp set here, Painted Rose, I've used, I think this is my maybe third video using this stamp. I absolutely love it. It comes with the rose outline as well as all the pieces you need in order to stamp it so that you get the inside color as well. And that to me is just so cool because I really don't like taking too much time on my cards. I like to make quick and easy cards for the most part. And if I want a color, then I don't really like doing tutorials about it because I'm not the best colorer in the world. So generally I point people in the direction of other classes when I do that. So I'm going to grab some Gina K Designs black ink and I'm going to ink up the Painted Rose, sorry. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the piece that goes directly over top of the flower, and this is going to create an imprint so that you don't have to color it. It's going to color it for you. So the next color I'm using is Innocent Pink, and that's what I'm going to stamp the rose in. And you'll see how just gorgeous this is the first time I've ever stamped this solid stamp and how beautiful the ink coverage is on Gina K. Definitely Gina K Designs and Catherine Pooler inks I think give you the best ink coverage out of all the inks that there are that I've tried so far. Okay, so I'm now going in with the second layer here. This just adds a little bit more detail to your cards. So it's going to add a little bit of depth to the rose as well, because as we know, roses aren't one color when there's shadows on them and different areas. So I'm going in now with another pink color called Dusty Rose, and I'm going to ink that all up and then stamp it. And you're going to see exactly how it works. So it fits perfectly in there in the shadowed areas, and then it gives it just some depth to the rose itself. You can stamp it more than once as well if you'd like it to be a bit darker. Now for the leaves, I'm using Jelly Bean Green for the leaves here, and I'm going to ink that up, and then it's going to ink up the complete leaves as well. And the leaves also have a detailed piece on them so that you can make a little bit more in-depth color also. Now you can see it has the splattered paint around it, and I love the splattered paint around it. However, I am going to die cut this so that the entire rose is cut out, and the die cuts don't cut out those splatters. But what's cool is the stamp set does come with splatters as well if you wanted to add your own paint splatters. So that's what I really like too. You don't lose that detail if you want to die cut it out using the coordinating die. Now I thought I'd add a background here, and so I grabbed that sketch stripe background again, and I left it on its acetate this time, and I inked it up using Simon Says Stamp Bog ink, and then I added my cardstock directly over top. Now the reason why I did that and I didn't show me inking up the stamp was because my camera got really shaky, so forgive that please. And then I stamped that, and that's a really subtle background, and that's what I really wanted for the background of this Painted Rose. So now it's going to look like this, but I thought it was a little bit too plain. I wanted to add one more layer of gray. So I went ahead and I grabbed the darker color of the Simon Says Stamp gray line, and that is the smoke gray. And I inked that all up again, and then I added my background kind of in blind faith. I didn't really know where I was going to line it up or if they were all just going to overlap in the end, but I really, really like the way that it looks. And that's why I like this very much, because it's very abstract, the lines. You don't need to have them perfectly. And so I put my rose on there, see how I liked it, and I decided to add some of those splatters I was talking about. I really missed that splatter pattern, and as well as I forgot to add the detail on the leaves. So I went ahead and added the detail on the leaves using some grass green, and then I went in and did those splatters as well because I really thought that that was such a beautiful detail on the flower itself that I wanted to have them. So I took a look as to where I was going to place the rose, and then I added those in the Dusty Rose darker pink color that I used on the detail of the rose. The coordinating stamp set also comes with a beautiful thinking of you sentiment. And so I went ahead with some black cardstock and I grabbed some stick-it paper. Now stick-it paper helps me with intricate dies because it's really hard to glue dies this thin when they're that scripty of a font. So I went and added that to the back. So it's double-sided, so you remove one side, stick it to the cardstock, add your die cut it, and then when you're finished, you just remove the backing of the stickiness, if that makes sense, and then you have a completely glued down background. So very easy to use and definitely good for those intricate dies. I don't like using them on all my die cuts. I will glue them because I like to not have a huge stash of it and waste it all, but I do use it definitely on those really thin scripty dies. So I went ahead and added some 3D foam tape to the back of the flower here. Just wanted to give it a little extra dimension on my card. And I added that here, just keeping in mind those splatters, just to keep them visible on the front of the card. And you'll see here I didn't even have to pull off the backing, I just had to pull up my die cut and it has the adhesive already on the back. And you just have to be careful while you're pulling this up because it is so thin, so you don't want to warp the sentiment itself. So you're just going to poke out all the little areas like the inside of the H and then you can stick it onto your card. So that's the end of today's card tutorial. Remember to watch part 1 to see the other 3 cards that you'll see at the final photo of this card. Just finally sticking down the sentiment, making sure it works, and then adding it to a card base. So I really appreciate everyone sticking around while I've been on vacation. I will be back in a week, and I have lots of fun videos up for you as well in the meantime. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your summer holidays. I have some suggested videos here as well as the subscribe button if you're interested in subscribing to my channel. Bye!